Dodgers got swept this weekend, but hey, they did something we haven't seen since 2019. Unfortunately, that means they lost 5 games in a row. Let's talk about it and try to be positive. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you have to do is listen or watch every day. And you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing and get notified when our episodes are ready or when we're going live like we are here on Sunday night. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. My name is Vince Samperio, joined by my co-host, Jeff Snyder. Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team for about a decade now in various capacities. One of those capacities being this podcast, which we've been doing for a greater part of that decade. And we've seen a lot of baseball in terms of the Dodgers. We've talked a lot of baseball in terms of the Dodgers, and we're here to do it once again. Although it's one of those times where maybe we don't really want to talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah, I was wishing my voice was still gone so I could just say, "Oh, sorry, Vince, you're gonna have to go solo tonight." I pawned a few of those off on you over the years. Say, "Oh, crappy game. Oh, I'm not feeling too great, Vince." But unfortunately, my voice is starting to get better, and here we are to talk about it. And yeah, you know what? It's part of the territory. It's part of the territory of being a baseball fan. Even the best teams go on losing streaks, like you said you hinted at the beginning. Dodgers hadn't lost 5 in a row since 2019. Well, that 2019 team was pretty good, as you'll recall. And that was earlier in the season. That was in mid-April. The Dodgers, I think they actually lost 6 in a row that year. But, even good teams. I mean, you and I both remember really well late August to mid-September of 2017. The Dodgers were the best team in baseball that year and would have won the World Series if they hadn't been cheated against. And yet they lost, 16 out of 17 games?
Yeah.
So, even good teams have bad streaks, but this has definitely been a bad and ugly streak.
Yeah, bad, ugly, not fun, all the above. But when it comes down to it, I think what we can confidently say is the Dodgers team is still a good team. What I don't think we can confidently say or even say at all is that they're a great team as they currently stand. And, that has a lot to do with guys not playing up to their potential, a few little things here and there. But, I do remember it's a little bit different. It feels weird because that first loss against the Reds in the series at home was kind of ugly. Even though they won the next 3, it just feels like the Reds dominated the Dodgers this season. And in 2017, I think they went 1-6 against the Reds. So this is not quite that. They went 3-4, but maybe the Reds beating them can trigger some of that. But yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about how the Dodgers' success becomes or hinges itself on starting pitching being good to help out the bullpen being good to help out the offense being good to, kind of the circle of life in terms of Dodger baseball. And right now the Dodgers are not getting anything. The bullpen's not great. The starting pitchers aren't great, and the hitting's not great.
Yeah. You're thinking of 2018 when the Dodgers went 1-6 against the Reds. That was, I remember it was when I was on my trip back east. I went to games in Atlanta and Tampa Bay and Miami and then Houston to check off some stadiums on my list. And that was while the Dodgers were getting swept by the Reds. And you and I remember we did a podcast episode. I was in a hotel room, probably in Atlanta. And it was the same time that same weekend or week, Clayton Kershaw went on the injured list with a forearm strain, and things were just looking bleak. And the Dodgers ended up in the World Series that year too. 2017, they went 6-0 against the Reds, but they did have, struggles against other teams. But all in all, yeah, I mean, it is right now you look at it and the whole team is slumping. Shohei Ohtani is, even though he scored the Dodgers only run on Sunday, he got on an error They may change that to a hit. I don't know. He hit it 113 miles an hour.
I thought they did already.
Oh, did they? I know they called it an error originally.
Pete on the postcast said they did, so I'll go by what he said.
Yeah. I'll have to check. Maybe next time you're talking instead of listening, I'll check that. But it's I mean, Freddie Freeman has been struggling. He drove in the one run. But that was his like fourth hit in his last 30 at bats or something with runners in scoring position. Obviously, one of those was a grand slam a few days ago. But all in all, like Freddie Freeman hasn't been quite right. Ohtani has been in a slump. We found out that he has a hamstring issue, not a strain, more of a bruise. It's from actually getting hit by a pickoff throw in the hamstring. But we saw him hit a triple on Saturday and then just kind of coast. He didn't run full speed, and still, it was still a triple. And, not even a super close play at third, but closer than you would have expected it to be with Ohtani running. And we found out after the game, it's because the Dodgers don't want him running full out right now because of the hamstring bruise or whatever, which is maybe a cause for a little concern. And I guess could be impacting the batting because, legs are important to hitting. I don't really know if that's impacting it, but even Mookie Betts is struggling a little bit right now. He had a good game this weekend, but also kind of some mediocre games. Nobody's really clicking, and the bottom of the lineup is, for the most part, over this 5-game losing streak, almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just been pretty bad overall. And even on Sunday, you get a bullpen game of sorts against Yamamoto, and Yamamoto looked really good, and then ran into some trouble, and then a couple little broken, no, I don't think broken bad, but a couple little dings and dunks, and now you're down 4-0. And when you're down 4-0 right now with the way the Dodgers are playing it, you don't feel very confident that they're going to score or that they can, put that up, because it's one where before you could feel confident, even with the bottom of the order, they're struggling because you're going to get Mookie, Ohtani, Freddie, Will Smith when he's playing, and they don't have that right now. They have Mookie's probably hitting the best of all of them. He's still up there leading the league in average. And then, Ohtani's been struggling now since the injury. Freddie's been down in it a little bit. And, if Will Smith's not in the lineup, then that lineup just is super, super, super long. So it's kind of wild how things have played out for the Dodgers right now. I think Andy Pajes has been hitting the ball hard and looking a little bit better, but also, the results aren't there. Gavin Lux, as much as we keep saying he's looking better, it's one of those things where, okay, looking better, but it's not necessarily translating 100%. And, you can go up and down lineup and everybody, you can kind of talk about something where they're struggling. And that's the bad part right now is that, everyone is struggling. The offense has been down for a couple weeks now. Everything has been down for the last 5 games for sure. And I think they're going to need someone on the starting staff to kind of really help them out and give them a dominant performance.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you said, Andy Pajes, he's hitting the ball hard when he hits it, but he's also swinging and missing a lot. Chris Taylor did have his first extra base hit of the season this weekend, but maybe he's showing signs of life. He wasn't like swinging and missing quite as much this weekend. Maybe that's a sign of things to come. I don't know, and maybe we'll dig into that more in the third segment. We're talking about, what we think getting out of this slump is going to look like. But all in all, like offensively, it's basically a full team slump. And the good news is it is a slump. Like Shohei Ohtani didn't just suddenly get bad. It's a slump. Freddie Freeman didn't suddenly get bad, even though, like they've mentioned on the broadcast, that Freeman feels like it goes all the way back to last season, the end of last season. But Freddie's still hitting like well, just not by Freddie Freeman standards. And so he's going to break out of it. Mookie is going to be fine. Will Smith is going to get, he's been slumping a little bit. He's going to get better. Those guys I don't worry as much about. It's the guys who, like Chris Taylor, I don't know if he's ever going to be good again. Andy Pajes, I don't know what the real version is. Kike Hernandez, I don't know if he's ever going to be good again. Those guys, that's what kind of concerns me. And maybe we'll talk more about that stuff in the third segment.
Yeah, we'll get into more about kind of Freddie and Ohtani and everything else that kind of comes with the top of the order that kind of trickles down to the bottom of the order. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Check out the Game Time app, download it right now, and look at what you can get because they have concerts, they have games, they have comedy, they have theater, they have a lot of different things, and you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for all those events. And there's a lot of different ways to save. They got flash deals, they got zone deals. You can check the all-in pricing, so you don't have to, worry about fees or anything like that. You can see exactly what you'd be paying. You can check out what your seat looks like with Seat View. And remember that Game Time has the lowest price guarantee because if you find tickets in the same section and row as you found on Game Time and they're cheaper, you'll get 110% of the difference sent to you. So make sure to go download the Game Time app, check out all the different bells and whistles it has, and make sure to get yourself some tickets for some upcoming games. Maybe the Dodgers aren't winning because you haven't been to a game. So maybe you want to go check that out. So download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Terms apply, but that's create an account on the Game Time app. Redeem with code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. If you're already on YouTube, make sure to head to Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest stories, can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. And remember, you can go beyond the podcast, become a Locked On Dodgers insider at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can get text directly from us. It was actually a quiet weekend for Locked On Dodgers Insider. Not a lot of movement in terms of the Dodgers roster moves, and then obviously not a lot of excitement from the Dodgers the way they're playing. But Jeff, let's talk about a little bit about Ohtani and this hamstring injury, and if there's any concern that basically their solution was to say, "Hey, don't go full speed, but you can still play."
For me personally, that gives me less concern because I really do think that if there was any chance of it being an injury that he would exacerbate by playing, I think he would be on the injured list. They put Max Muncy on the injured list for, not precautionary, but for a very mild strain. And hopefully he's going to be back. I as much as they would hate to put Ohtani on the injured list, I think they would have done it if they are worried about it. I think the fact that it is a contact injury, not a muscle strain, I don't know. I've never even played a doctor on TV, so I don't know what the science is behind don't run full speed. But I would guess it's maybe worried about like compensating for the pain and doing some injury that way. And so, yeah, obviously there's a little reason for concern, but for me, the fact that they're letting him play when they've shown no shyness of putting guys on the injured list all season makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, again, with Dodgers and injuries and everything else, at this point, we'll just hope for the best. But the other thing about Freddie Freeman, I saw someone bring it up in the chat, and something I kind of looked at the other day too is, are we concerned with Freddie Freeman that he might not be as good as he has been, and it might be something that doesn't come back? The biggest difference with Freddie Freeman, kind of looking at some of the numbers, is his ability to hit the fastball. This year, he's hitting 265 against the fastball with an expected batting average of 275. So, just right there. But you look at 2023, he hit 344 against the fastball, 344 expected batting average. Look at 2022, 351 expected batting average, 331 or 351 average, 331, 293, 326, 432, 402. Like, he's never hit this bad against the fastball. Do you think it's something that, time is catching up to him, or do you think it's just he's in his head mechanically and he can kind of clean it up?
I lean towards the latter, but at his age, time catches up to everybody at some point, and usually it's only in hindsight that we recognize that it happened. Usually, you look back and say, "Oh, yeah, it turns out that guy started getting bad 2 years ago." And if you look at Albert Pujols, like when the Angels signed Albert Pujols, he was coming off a season with the Cardinals in 2011 that in hindsight was clearly the start of his decline. And then the decline happened a lot faster than you might have expected once he went to the Angels. We could read in any reasons for that we want to, but his decline had clearly already started, but it wasn't necessarily so clear in the moment. And so, yeah, at some point, Freddie Freeman's not going to be a great hitter anymore. I think it's too early in the season to say for sure that that's already started happening. And the fact is he still is hitting the ball really well at times. And so we know it's still in there. So it's mostly just kind of figuring out I think it's mechanical and that he is a little bit in his head. And maybe, there's sometimes when you're hitting and you just feel like you just go up there and it's all just instincts and just hitting the ball all over the field. And sometimes you feel like you're guessing wrong every pitch.
Yeah, Baseball Savant has the new bat tracking information, and Freddie Freeman is very, very, very low in terms of bat speed, but there's also not previous year's numbers, at least not that I can find. So we don't know if it's a decline in bat speed or if that's just how he normally is. But yeah, again, it's May 26th. I'm not going to be concerned. He's still playing relatively well, obviously not right now, but over the course of the season, the numbers are relatively good enough. But it's one of those things where is relatively good enough, along with the bottom of the order being really bad, something that you can kind of keep track of. And I think that, you kind of look around and we'll get into this now. We'll talk about Dave Robertson in the next segment, but just kind of what can be done. Like, let's just say this is the team right now. And, you're going to get the production from the top of the order. Max Muncy will come back and be as good as he can be. Teoscar Hernandez right there. So you got, 1 through 6, but it's 7 through 9 that's obviously having the issues. It's the outfield for the most part is really where the issue is, in second base. And, we learned of the news that Ronald Acuna Jr. is out for the season for the Braves. So they might have not been looking for or looking as hard for somebody. And now they are, and all these other teams that think they have a chance are looking. And there's only one Tommy Pham and one, what other name you can think of in terms of outfielders to go around. So, what else do we think is out there? Or is, looking at Tommy Pham kind of the answer?
There's Tommy Pham, there's Tyler O'Neill with the Red Sox. The Red Sox are only a game and a half out of a wild card spot right now. But, if they were to fall a little bit back behind, he is hitting really well. Well, not hitting really well. He has a 132 OPS plus this year. That's really good. His batting average is 236, but his on-base percentage is 343. So he's hitting well. Tyler O'Neill, he's a 2-time Gold Glove winning outfielder. He's not playing great defense this year, which, doesn't necessarily mean he would be a liability in the outfield, but defensively, he's nothing to write home about anymore. And I don't know that his strikeout rate this year is 33.7%, which would slot him among the highest rates on the Dodgers. I don't know that that's what the Dodgers are looking for. He does walk a lot. Tommy Pham is kind of the opposite kind of hitter. Tyler O'Neill doesn't have as many home runs, has a much better batting average, doesn't walk, but also doesn't strike out. And so, Tommy Pham isn't your prototypical Dodgers hitter, but also your prototypical Dodgers hitters are kind of the problem right now. And it might be that the Dodgers just need more contact. And, Eric Karros talked a lot about that this weekend, and I think he overstates it a little bit. But yeah, I do think right now there are times when, like, Andy Paez is overmatched in big moments. It's Kike Hernandez is only a mistake hitter at this point in his career, and he's not even as good at hitting mistakes as he used to be. And then, obviously Chris Taylor is Chris Taylor. There are a lot of strikeouts in this lineup right now. And a guy like Tommy Pham, who also is nothing great defensively, but he's adequate defensively. And, obviously I don't know if Pham's spark and spunk would be a good thing. I wonder sometimes. We know what Tommy Pham is as a player. Why did it take so long for any team to sign him this year? Maybe teams have opinions that we don't know about. But purely as a baseball player, I think I'd rather have Tommy Pham, right now playing somewhere in the outfield. Problem is, do you put Tommy Pham as your center fielder? Or because like if Andy Pages goes down to the minors and James Outman stays in the minors, you don't have a center fielder.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of questions, and obviously, Pham is the main one right now. O'Neill, some of these other guys that might emerge as we kind of let the season play out. Speaking of Acuna and kind of what happened in 2021, like the Braves just went out and got a bunch of outfielders that year. They got Duvall, and they got Jock, and they got Rosario, and Soler. Maybe I think they also got that year, and almost all of them were a MVP of a series, getting them to the World Series that year. So it might be one of those where maybe you do it like a reliever and you just try to pick up a bunch of these guys if they're cheap, or if you can, get them off the scrap heap and see which one can catch fire. We've seen a lot of random guys catch fire in October, and maybe that's what the Dodgers need. Maybe they have that random guy already and he's going to catch fire at some point. But there's no right answers right now. There's just, we can hope that the bottom of the order gets a little better. We can hope that the top of the order gets out of their slump, and we can hope that the pitching can kind of move forward. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I see you're gonna got something else.
Yeah, I was just saying, I had the thought today. I feel like Miguel Vargas is likely going to be traded because he's hit really well in AAA, but he clearly doesn't have a spot defensively on this Dodgers team, even enough to see if he can hit in the big leagues, which means he probably needs to be a trade chip to address the needs of this team this year. Good news is he's been so good in the minors, both this year and in previous years, that he might actually be a good trade chip to get something good in return. But the fact that even right now with these struggles, Miguel Vargas can't find the field because of his defense kind of tells me, sorry, we've got Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman. So the two positions you could play, we don't have room for. So you're probably going somewhere.
Yeah. Again, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe he does get a chance. Maybe something happens and he gets a chance and he runs with it. We'll see. But, we talked about some solutions. We might get into more of those. Dave Roberts will always draw ire from Dodger fans. I don't think there's anything he can do right now. And there was a moment on the field that kind of reminds you of why Dave Roberts is still here as manager of the Dodgers. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. Order supplies from the website that's made for the skilled trades. Find thousands of parts from hundreds of brands in just a couple of clicks at supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com gives you 24/7 access to a huge selection of plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with fast delivery anywhere in the U.S. If you need help with an order, they get industry-leading after-sales service from their friendly and knowledgeable customer support team, and you can talk to a real person every time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, and contractors. Being a pro has its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free Trade Master program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the Trade Master program to deliver results. So apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money and time when you order online. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. I want to thank you for being an everyday, or if you are one, an everyday or someone that listens or watches every day. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. So why not add us to your daily routine? When the Dodgers are winning, it's happy times and you can bask in the happiness. And when the Dodgers are losing, maybe you want to hear some frustrations. And I think, there's definitely frustrations among some people that are Dodger fans, and maybe a little bit less so among us right now, but there's definitely concerns. I think we can both agree to that. Is there anything else on the solution front, Jeff, that you can think of right now? Or is it just, like I said, just a matter of, let's play better?
Well, we've got a couple of people throwing out names in the chat. Drew Avins, Andre Lipsius. Avins, I'm both of those guys. The big challenges are not on the 40-man roster. And so it would mean either swapping out, DFAing a pitcher to make room for them, which then, messes up the balance of the 40-man roster a little bit, or it means cutting ties with someone, maybe, yeah. And obviously I've beat this drum before, but if what's his name? The catcher?
Who,
Hunter
Barnes?
Fiducia
Oh,
was the backup catcher, and Austin Barnes was not on the 40-man roster, that would open up a spot for a guy like Andre Lipsius. But other than that, and we talked in the offseason about how having 4 catchers on the 40-man roster is not ideal because they're not going to DFA Diego Cartaya at this point, or Hunter Fiducia. And so really Austin Barnes, the one catcher among the 4 who is bad at baseball, is the guy who should be the odd man out, but he's not for a lot of reasons. So, I don't hate the idea at all of bringing up Lipsius. I'm confident that Andre Lipsius would be a better major league hitter than Kike Hernandez right now, playing third base. I don't know how they make that happen roster wise.
Yeah. That's kind of, unfortunately, that's the issue sometimes with some of these decisions is it's not as just easy as you may seem. And obviously Chris Taylor is a big name of conversation, and should they just designate him for assignment or whatever the case is, and everyone's going to have their opinions on that, but that's a big decision. It's not just something like, oh yeah, we're just going to designate him for assignment and bring someone up, and then what if that doesn't work out, and then if you're in the same spot and now you lost out on a potential bat that you've at least seen be successful before. So again, there's no true solution right now. It's bad right now. Overall, the Dodgers are still, a good team, but there's definitely a lot of questions moving forward that need answers to that go beyond just, well, let's wait and see what happens. So, but we talk about Dave Roberts, and again, right now, I think a lot of any criticism of Dave Roberts is a little bit disingenuous, especially if it comes to like bullpen decisions and everything else. And yeah, there are times when maybe he goes, he doesn't play to win every game in the exact moment right now. I think that could be the biggest gripe you may have with him. But I've seen people kind of question the bullpen moves and everything else. And it's like, well, who do you want him to go to? There is Blake Trinan, there's Daniel Hudson, and then there's a lot of questions or guys that have been on multiple teams this year and have been designated for assignment. So it's one of the nature of, if the starting pitching is not helping out and the Dodgers have to go to guys like Yohan Ramirez and whoever else they pick up off the DFA line that day, that's just what happens sometimes. But speaking of Ramirez, there was a moment he came in earlier in the series and 12 pitches, 1 strike, couple hit batters, and then Alex Vesia gave up a grand slam. And then he comes in on Sunday, and still can't really find the strike zone. Dave Roberts goes out there, and you think, okay, he might get pulled or something's going to happen. And then Dave Roberts kind of pulls him in, gives him, a little bit of a bro hug, kind of talks in his ear, and then he gets out of it after that. So, again, it's not one of those things where, all Dave Roberts has to do is hug the guy and he's going to get out. But I do think it's one of those things where it goes beyond, there's the word manager is twofold in baseball. It's game manager and there's player relations manager, whatever you want to call it. I think Dave Roberts is the lead at one, and I think the other one he's maybe been hit over the head a little bit too much about. But in the end, that's what you want. Like you talk about leader, that's a leader.
Yeah, for sure. He is the best people manager in baseball, for sure. He also, by the way, has the best regular season winning percentage of any manager in baseball history. So the on-field manager, he's probably a little bit better than the naysayers think he is. I saw a comment even in this chat on our live episode a little bit ago, somebody saying they wish they had Tommy Lasorda. First of all, I suspect Tommy Lasorda would be a bad manager right now on account of not being alive. But even in his prime, if you look at their first 8 seasons, comparing Tommy Lasorda and Dave Roberts, they each lost back-to-back World Series early in their tenure. And then a few years later, won a World Series, coincidentally in a shortened season, both of which were completely legitimate, unless you're intellectually dishonest. The main difference between Roberts and Lasorda's first 8 seasons, well, one is that Roberts would have 2 World Series titles if the Astros hadn't cheated. And 2 is that in those other seasons, the 5 seasons that they didn't go to the World Series, Dave Roberts is at least winning the division, winning a lot in the regular season, making it fun to watch, whereas Tommy Lasorda's teams missed the playoffs a few times in there. So like on every feasible comparison, Dave Roberts has had more success than Tommy Lasorda as a manager through 8 seasons as Dodgers manager. I love Tommy Lasorda. Tommy Lasorda was a Dodgers manager when I was growing up. I'm not criticizing Tommy Lasorda. I'm saying we are fetishizing the past and thinking that because Tommy Lasorda won 2 World Series titles, being fiery and the kind of person he was, that Dave Roberts needs to be that kind of person too. And the fact is, another difference between Dave Roberts and Tommy Lasorda is that everybody who's played for Dave Roberts liked playing for Dave Roberts. That wasn't true of Tommy Lasorda. The reason the Dodgers traded Pedro Guerrero in 1988 is because Guerrero and Lasorda couldn't get along. And there's a pretty long list of guys who hated Tommy Lasorda. Doesn't mean they were right and that Lasorda was wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying different managers have different styles. And Dave Roberts, like, he gets criticized for not being fiery enough or whatever. But what we saw on Sunday was one of the reasons that every person who's ever played for Dave Roberts loves the guy, because he is a great people person. And, Yohan Ramirez, who has only been on the roster for a week and is going to be a DFA'd by the time a lot of people are listening to this episode, probably, still got the Dave Roberts treatment, the I value you as a person treatment, not the why do you keep screwing up my baseball games treatment. And Roberts was managing a team that was about to lose their 5th straight game. It could have been a very frustrating time as a manager. And the fact that he took the time to be a people person right then says a lot about him.
Yeah. The other part that, again, when these arguments are hard to make, they're not linear for sure. Let's just say the last 10 years, like the Dodgers, they finished top 2 in the league most of those, almost all 10 of those years. They would have been, like, in the old playoff system, they would have been in the NLCS instantly. So, like, if you put 10 years of Dodgers being in the NLCS and more than half of them being the number 1 seed with home field advantage, I think they make it to a lot more World Series. I think they win a lot more World Series. That's just the nature of the beast. There's a reason that, like, other than Joe Torre and the Yankees of winning all those, and then the Giants 3-5, which was a little bit of a weirder one. There's a reason the baseball has had so much parity in terms of champions over the last 20-ish years, however long goes back to, because it's hard. You have to, everything has to line up. It's not just win one series, you're in the World Series. It's a lot different. And, Dave Roberts, again, he's made decisions I don't agree with. He's made, especially in the playoffs. But I do think that right now, who can you point to that's like, oh, yeah, he's definitely someone that's going to win every single time?
Yeah, there's no such manager, and Dave Roberts isn't the problem. Dave Roberts isn't giving guys the don't get a hit with runners in scoring position sign. There's not a sign for that. At some point, we're going to have to, when players don't perform, we're going to have to put that on the players. And too many people are way too quick to jump to, it must be the manager's fault. He put those players in the game. Well, yeah, he's got the players he has. Who did you want to put in the game? People say, well, why is Chris Taylor playing? Okay. Was whoever, Jason Hayward doing better? Whoever the alternatives are right now, the guys are just struggling, and that's not on the manager, that's on the players. And it's not even a criticism of the players. It's the nature of baseball. The fact that a great team in 2019 lost 6 games in a row, the fact that an even better team in 2017 lost 16 out of 17 games, like, that's how baseball works. And sometimes a team sucks for a little while. Doesn't mean they suck overall.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to learn from these Dodgers here in the coming months is, are they, which Dodgers are the Dodgers to really lean into. So you got anything else, Jeff, before we head out of here?
No, I think we're good.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you. I know it's tough to listen after this losing streak, but, hopefully the Dodgers will win. They're playing the Mets, who are equally as bad in terms of down in the dumps. And if the Mets I think unless they won on Sunday, I don't know if they won Sunday, but the Mets haven't won in an alternate uniform all year. So if they wear any alternate uniforms, guaranteed dub for sure. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to check us out wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, become an everyday or by listening or watching every day. Become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers and get text directly from us with news, updates, thoughts, and more. You can also go to Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, giving you all the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. You can find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us for any questions or comments. You can also send those to our email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, text my device play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.